Far above a quiet world, the space station Threx's Hold floated like a giant ring in the dark sky. It was a place where traders came from every corner of the stars. Ships arrived every hour, bringing goods, workers, machines, and sometimes people. One of those people was Keela. She was not human. Her skin had a soft silver glow, and her eyes were large, gentle, and deep violet. Her kind, called the Valari, were known across the stars not for war, but for peace. They were calm, kind, and quiet. They felt things deeply. Very deeply. Keela had once lived on a beautiful forest planet with her family. But she had been taken, sold, brought to Threx's Hold by those who only saw her as a thing, not a person. Now she lived in a small clear cell under the station, deep below where the lights were dim and the air smelled of metal. Around her were tall machines, blinking lights, and thick doors that closed with loud sounds. Every day, people came to look at her, to test her. Some poked her with strange tools. Some sent waves of sound or light to see how she would react. And some just watched her suffer. They smiled when she was in pain. To them, it was a game. Keela never spoke to them. Her kind didn't need many words. She curled up on the floor, her silver glow growing dimmer each day. She felt cold, lonely, but most of all, she felt pain. In another part of Threx's Hold, a human named Ryan was unloading crates from a supply ship. He was young, but his eyes looked older than his age. He wore a simple brown jacket, gloves with holes in them, and heavy boots. Like many others, Ryan worked to pay off a travel debt. He was just another name on a list easy to ignore. But Ryan saw things. He noticed more than others. One day, while carrying a box down a service hallway, Ryan passed by a thick window. Behind it, he saw something strange, a soft light, like a silver flame. He stopped for a moment and looked closer. It was Keel. She was sitting very still. Her eyes were half closed, her arms wrapped around her knees. She looked like a ghost. In a cage, Ryan had never seen anything like her before. Not just her shape, but the sadness in her eyes. He took a step forward, placing his hand on the glass. Suddenly, Keela looked up. Their eyes met. For a few seconds, the hallway was silent. Ryan didn't move, neither did she. There was something in her eyes, something he didn't expect. Not just fear, not just pain. It was hope. A quiet alarm beeped behind him. Ryan turned quickly and left, knowing he had stopped too long. Workers weren't allowed in that part of the station for more than a few minutes. He hurried away, but his mind stayed behind with her. That night, Ryan sat in his bunk in the workers' quarters. Around him, others were asleep, snoring, or muttering in their sleep. But Ryan stared at the metal ceiling above. He couldn't forget her. He had seen many strange beings in space. Some beautiful, some strange. But none had stayed in his mind like the girl in the cage. She wasn't just a strange alien. She was real, alive, and hurting. The next day, he walked past the same hallway again. He pretended to fix a broken panel so he could look through the glass once more. Keela was there, lying down, her glow even dimmer. This time, Ryan left something near the door. A small cloth pad from his bunk, folded neatly. Later, he would leave her a water pouch. Then a piece of fruit he saved from his meal. He never saw her take them, but each time the items were gone. He also started leaving something else, small cards with drawings. Ryan liked to draw. Simple things, birds, trees, the moon over the sea. He didn't know if Keela could understand, but he hoped she would like them. One day, as he passed the window again, he saw something that made him stop in surprise. On the inside of the glass, someone had drawn a picture too. It was the same tree he had drawn. But this one had silver leaves, drawn with her finger in the thin layer of mist on the glass. She was watching him. She remembered in the upper levels of the station. The ones who kept Keela didn't know what was happening. They didn't notice the cloth, the food, or the tiny pictures. They didn't see the slow change in her eyes, but Ryan saw it. Each day, Keela's glow was a little brighter. Each time he walked by, her eyes were a little stronger. He didn't speak. To her, he didn't need to. She knew, and in the silence between them, something began to grow. Something small but powerful. Kindness. And that kindness, though still quiet, was about to change everything. The days passed slowly on Threx's hold. Ships came and went. Traders walked through wide halls, speaking in many voices and many languages. Above, there was color and noise. Below, in the shadows, life stayed quiet. Ryan continued his work. He carried boxes, repaired pipes, and cleaned storage rooms. Most people on the station ignored him. They thought he was just another worker. But Ryan didn't care. His eyes were always searching for her. Each morning, he passed the same glass window. Each time, he left something small, fruit, a cloth, or one of his drawings. And each time, Keela was there, waiting. They never spoke. They didn't need to. One day, as Ryan placed a soft bread roll near the door, Keela pressed her hand against the glass. Her fingers were long and thin, and they glowed gently. Without thinking, Ryan placed his hand on the glass too, across from hers. The two hands did not touch. But something passed between them, something neither could explain. A calm feeling. A quiet warmth. For a moment, the station's cold walls seemed far away. Later that day, Ryan was called to clean the viewing room near Keela's cell. It was rare for workers to go inside. But someone had spilled a drink, and Ryan was close by. As he entered, he saw them, the group who tormented Keela. They were not workers. They were guests from rich alien families. Dressed in fine clothes, they sat on soft seats, laughing and pointing at the glass. Some held strange devices. One of them, a tall, green-skinned youth named Zern, seemed to be the leader. Zern spoke in a high voice. "Watch this," he said, pressing a button. A loud sound filled the cell, sharp and sudden. Keela covered her ears, her glow flickering. The group laughed. Another pressed a button, and bright lights flashed inside the cell. Keela flinched. Ryan froze. They weren't testing her, they were playing. One girl in the group, with silver bracelets and cold eyes, smiled. "The Valari can feel everything. That's why she's fun." Zern added, "Yes, she shows fear so well. But she won't break. That's what makes it better." Ryan couldn't speak. His fists clenched at his sides. But he knew he couldn't act now. If he spoke out, they might hurt her more or send him away. He cleaned the floor quietly, his eyes burning. Before leaving, he looked once more through the glass. Keela was sitting again, her arms around her knees. She looked up. She saw him, even. With pain in her face, she gave him the smallest nod. As if to say, "I'm still here." That night, Ryan didn't sleep. He sat in the dark, thinking about what he saw. He knew the universe was not kind. He had seen war, greed, and power. But this hurting someone just to laugh felt worse than anything. He thought of Keela's eyes, of the small tree she drew, of her soft glow. She didn't belong in that cell. She didn't belong in pain, and maybe, just maybe, he didn't belong in silence anymore. The next day, Ryan made a plan. He went to the station's lower supply area, where old items were stored. There, he found a small heat pad used to help sore muscles. He tested it and wrapped it in cloth. He also found a tiny book for children, full of pictures and simple words. It was about a small bird that found its way home. Ryan thought of the forest Keela had once lived in. Maybe she would understand. Left both items near her door that evening. This time, Keela stepped forward as he placed them down. She didn't take them right away. Instead, she looked at him closely. Then, slowly, she placed her hand over her heart. A soft light glowed from her chest. Ryan didn't know what the gesture meant, but he felt it. Deep inside, like a song without sound, she was thanking him, and more than that, she was trusting him. But danger was growing. Zern had noticed someone was leaving items near the cell. He ordered his guards to check the area. One evening, as Ryan left a piece of fruit and turned the corner, he heard sharp voices. "Who's been here?" Someone touched the door again. Ryan hid behind a crate. His heart pounded. He waited until the guards moved away, then slipped out silently. That night, he drew a picture of Keela's tree again, this time with roots deep and strong. He left it where she would see it. She did, and she smiled. Not much. Just a little, but it was the first time. Ryan knew he couldn't stop the nobles. Yet he didn't have power. He didn't have weapons, but he had something stronger. He saw her, and he cared. Keela was no longer just a quiet girl in a cage. She was a person. A life. A light in the dark. And soon, others would see it too. It had been 5 days since Ryan last saw the group of nobles. During that time, he and Keela continued their silent friendship. The small gifts, the drawings, and the shared looks through the glass became part of their world. But deep inside, Ryan knew this couldn't last forever. One evening, just as Ryan was about to leave a soft towel near Keela's door, he heard footsteps. Loud ones. Different from the usual workers. He quickly stepped back into the shadows and watched. Zern and his group had returned. They laughed as they entered the viewing room. One of them was carrying a box full of glowing rods. Another had a device with bright red lights. Ryan knew something was wrong. Zern stood in front of the glass. "Let's make this one loud. I want to see if she screams today." Ryan's heart dropped. Inside the cell, Keela stood up slowly. Her silver glow dimmed a little. But she stood straight, her eyes fixed on Zern. She didn't move. She didn't cry. Ryan had seen her afraid before. But now she looked different. She looked calm. Zern pointed the device toward the glass. A soft hum began to build. Then the sound grew louder, sharper. The light on the device turned orange. Ryan stepped out from the shadows. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He simply walked. Forward. Stop. Everyone in the room turned. Zern blinked. "Who are you?" Ryan stood tall. "I'm a worker, and what you're doing is wrong." The room went silent. One of the nobles laughed. "This is none of your business," Zern frowned. "You don't speak unless asked, worker." But Ryan didn't move. "She's not a toy. She's not a thing. She feels everything. And you enjoy it." Zern's face grew cold. "You want to help her?" "Fine." He raised the device. Without warning, a sharp wave of pain energy shot toward Keela. But at that exact moment, Ryan stepped forward and pressed his hand flat against the glass. Keela did. The same. Their hands met, separated only by the clear barrier. Then something strange happened. The energy passed through the glass. Not into Keela. Into Ryan. His body froze. A burning heat rushed through him. Not like fire, but deep, inside his chest, his arms, his mind. He gasped but didn't fall. His eyes stayed open. He held his ground. Behind the glass, Keela's glow brightened. She looked shocked. Her eyes wide. Zern stepped back. What was that?" One of the nobles whispered. "It went into him." "That shouldn't happen. Humans can't link." Keela slowly lowered her hand. Her voice, soft and musical, echoed through a small speaker. "He took it, for me." Ryan fell to one knee, breathing hard. Keela turned to the group outside. "He shared my pain. No one has ever done that." Zern's face turned pale. "He dropped the device." The others backed away. Ryan looked up, still shaking. "I don't know how, but I felt it, all of it." He turned to Keela. "And I'm still here." News traveled fast on Threx's hold. Within hours, people were talking. A human shared a Valari's pain. No one has done that in years. Maybe. Not ever. Most people didn't understand it. Some said it was a lie. Others said it was a trick. But deep in the lower halls, workers whispered the truth. The quiet girl in the cell was not weak. and the human who noticed her was not ordinary. Later that night, Ryan sat in the small medical room. He had no major injuries, but the doctor, an old, kind alien named Pello, was puzzled. "I've seen pain waves before," Pello said. "They knock strong creatures down flat. But your mind adjusted. You held it." Ryan nodded slowly. "I didn't want her to suffer again." Pello looked at him with deep eyes. "You formed a link. A pain share. That hasn't happened since the old times. Not with humans." "What does it mean?" Ryan asked. Pello smiled gently. "It means she's not alone anymore." In the cell, Keela sat near the glass. She held Ryan's latest drawing in her hands. It was of a mountain standing tall in the wind. She closed her eyes and remembered the moment their hands met. For the first time in a long while, her body didn't hurt. Her heart felt full. Someone had taken her pain, and not with force, not for fun. He had done it with choice. The station leaders were not happy. Zern had reported the event. But it didn't help him. Many began to question why the Valari girl was still being kept. Some feared what would happen if others learned about the pain share. But for Ryan and Keela, things had already changed. She now stood at the glass each day, waiting. He came when he could, smiling through the window. They didn't always speak. They didn't need to. Their silence was no longer empty. It was full of meaning. Full of hope. And something more, something growing stronger. Every day, a connection no one could break. Not with fear. Not with power. The station lights flickered low as the evening shift ended on Threx's hold. Most workers were tired, walking back to their bunks in silence. But Ryan felt more awake than ever. Since the pain share, everything had changed. Keela now looked at him differently, not with sadness or fear, but with trust. Her silver glow was brighter now, like moonlight on water. When she saw him, her eyes lit up in a way that warmed Ryan's heart. They didn't always speak, but words were no longer needed. Their bond was stronger than speech. It was real. And others began to notice. In the lower halls, whispers moved from one worker to another. "Did you hear? The human linked with the Valari girl. He took her pain. All of it. No one's ever done that before, not even her own kind." Some didn't believe it. Others were amazed. But one thing was certain: Ryan was no longer just a quiet worker. He had become something more. Still, not everyone was happy. Zern sat in his private quarters, looking out at the stars beyond the glass wall. His hands were tight fists. She should have broken, he said to himself. She was supposed to stay weak. His assistant, a thin alien with blue skin named Reln, spoke softly. The human changed the balance. The bond made them stronger. Zern's eyes narrowed. "Then we break the bond." He stood and pressed a button on the wall. A screen lit up, showing the station's control center. "I want the human watched." No more contact with the Valari. Relm looked unsure. "But the council," Zern snapped. "Do it." Meanwhile, Ryan was helping Keela understand simple human words. Each day, he would show her a picture and speak its name. "Sky," he said, pointing to a drawing of blue clouds. Keela touched the paper gently. "Sky," she repeated. He smiled. "Yes, sky." She paused, then pointed to herself. "Keela." Then she pointed at him. "Ryan," he nodded. "That's me." She smiled, soft, glowing, warm. In that small, quiet room, far from home, a language of friendship was being built, word, picture by picture. But their peace didn't last. The next morning, Ryan arrived at the usual hallway but found two guards standing at the door. "You're not allowed in this section anymore," one said. Ryan tried to stay calm. "I'm just leaving food, that's all. No orders, no entry." He left without a fight, but inside, his chest felt tight. That night, he wrote a simple message on the back of a drawing. "I'm still here." He asked a young cleaning worker to slip it under the door. The worker, quiet and kind, agreed. Inside the cell, Keela read the words, and held them close. She didn't cry. Her kind rarely did, but her glow grew softer again, not because of pain, but because of the empty space where Ryan used to stand. Ryan didn't stop. He searched for someone who could help. That's when he met Mila. She was an older woman who worked in the tech levels. Her hands were worn from years of repairs, and her back was bent, but her eyes were sharp. "You're the one who linked with the Valari girl," she said when Ryan approached her. He nodded. "I need help. They're blocking me. I just want to keep her safe." Mila looked at him carefully, then nodded once. "My son died in this station. Hurt by the same people who locked that girl away," she said. "I've seen what they do. I'll help." She gave him a small device. "Use this near her room. It will block the cameras for 5 minutes." Ryan held it gently. "Thank you," Mila smiled. "She's not just an alien, is she? She's a person. You reminded me of that." That night, Ryan used the device. He slipped past the guards during shift change and reached the hallway again. He saw Keela through the glass. When she looked up and saw him, her glow brightened instantly. He pressed his hand to the glass dot. She did the same. Their bond returned, quiet and strong. "I'm still here," he whispered. Keel nodded. Then she touched her chest and whispered back, "Together." The next day, Mila showed Ryan something bigger. Old maps of the station's lower levels. "These halls are unused," she explained, "but they still work. You could move her." "Move her?" Ryan asked. "To somewhere safe, if you're brave enough." Ryan looked at the map, then at Mila. "I'll do it." He didn't have much. No weapon, no power. But he had something stronger. Purpose. Keela had changed him. And now he would change her fate. In her cell, Keela sat near the glass, holding a small drawing Ryan had left through Mila. It showed 2 stars side by side, shining over a quiet world. She touched the stars with her fingers, outside her small world. Ryan was planning something that would change both their lives forever. They were not just a worker and a prisoner anymore. They were 2 souls, joined by pain but stronger because of it. The lights above the lower decks of Threx's hold flickered again. No one fixed them anymore. That part of the station had been forgotten by the higher levels. But down there, something important was happening, something the nobles didn't see. Ryan, the human worker who once walked alone, now had help. With Mila's guidance and her old maps, he moved through the hidden service tunnels, learning every hallway, every door, and every camera blind spot. She showed him old tech rooms and power access panels. These places were dusty, quiet, and dark, but perfect for a plan to set Keela free. Keela no longer spent her days curled in pain. She waited near the glass wall every day, watching. Ryan didn't come as often, but when he did, it was always quick, always hidden. Still, she smiled every time she saw him. She had changed. Her body still carried the signs of hurt, but her eyes were sharp now. She remembered old words from her home, words for strength, words for rising again. Each night, she repeated them softly to herself. Then she whispered Ryan's name. He was her light. One night, as Ryan crept through an old vent, he heard soft humming. He stopped and listened. It was coming from one of the old storage rooms. When he peeked inside, he saw something strange. 4 workers sitting around a small heater. One of them, an old man with a metal arm, was whispering, "I heard the Valari girl sings again. They say the human's bond healed part of her soul." The others nodded. "I heard the same," one woman said. "And she's not the only one changing." Ryan stepped forward. "Do you want to help her?" They looked up in surprise. He told them everything about Keela, the bond, the pain he took, and the plan to move her out of the cage. When he finished, there was silence. Then the man with the metal arm stood. "We'll help." The others joined him. They were tired. They were broken. But their hearts still worked, just like Keela's, Just like Ryan's, the next days were spent in secret work. Mila fixed an old lift system that hadn't worked in years. The group cleaned out a hidden room where Keela could stay, far from the noble's eyes. Ryan practiced unlocking her cell's emergency door. He knew he had only one chance. Once she was out, the nobles would search. But if they could hide her long enough, maybe, just maybe, they could send her home. They found an old Velari signal code in the system. If they could reach deep space, there was a chance her people might hear it. Hope had returned. One evening, Ryan made it back to Keela's cell and placed a small device near the glass. It was Mila's creation, a speaker that worked both ways. Keela's voice came through, soft but clear. "You are trying to free me." Ryan smiled. "Yes." She looked unsure. "It is dangerous." "I know. You may be hurt." "I already was," Ryan said gently. "But I'm still here. And so are you." Keela placed her hand on the glass. "Then we go together." The next day, Ryan and the small team waited in position. Mila stood by the power panel, ready to cut the lights. The others watched the halls and cameras. Ryan stood by. Keela's cell. His hands shook a little. He pressed the button on the door device. Nothing happened. His heart skipped. He tried again. Still nothing. Then he heard it dash footsteps. Guards. Too soon. He looked back at Keela, panic rising in his chest. But she was calm. Her eyes locked on his. She placed her hand on the glass. And then something strange happened again. The glass between them began to glow, not from the outside, from inside. Ryan felt it. Not pain, not fear. Energy. His hand tingled. The device beeped once. Click. The door unlocked. The emergency lights flickered on as Mela cut the main power. Alarm stayed silent. Her virus was working. Ryan grabbed Keela's hand, and together they ran through the narrow tunnels. Keela moved slowly at first, unused to walking so far. But her legs grew stronger with each step. In the hidden room, the others waited. They arrived breathless but safe. Keela looked around. She had never seen a space so open in the station. There were no glass walls, no noise, no pain devices. Just warm lights, soft floors, and kind faces. Ryan knelt beside her. "You're free." Keela looked at him, eyes shining. "Because of you." "No," he said, "because of us." In the days that followed, Keela stayed hidden. Ryan taught her more words. She told him stories in her soft voice, memories of forests, rivers, and songs her people used to sing. Mila and the others worked to send out the Velari signal. Each time they tried, they hoped someone far away was listening, and every night, Keela sang again. The sound floated through the pipes of Threx's hold. Soft and beautiful. The workers in the lower decks listened. And they began to believe. Not in power. Not in fear, but in something simple: kindness. Keela was no longer a prisoner. She now lived in a small, hidden room deep below Threx's hold. It was quiet there, safe. There were no flashing lights, no cold glass, no cruel voices. Just warmth, soft air, and kind faces. Every morning, she sat near the old heater and watched Ryan fix broken tools or draw simple pictures. Every night she sang. Her songs had no words, only feeling. And those feelings began to move through the walls and pipes of the station like a soft breeze. They passed into the old vents, the wires, and the sleeping quarters of the forgotten. The workers heard her voice, and something inside them began to wake up. At first, it was just whispers. She's still here. They didn't break her. The humans saved her. Then came quiet actions. A worker left food by the old tunnel. Another placed a blanket outside the old cargo bay. Someone repaired a broken pipe near the hidden room without being asked. They never said anything. They just helped. Because they knew she mattered, and so did the one who stood with her. In the control center of Threx's hold, Zern paced. Across the floor, "She's missing," he said sharply. "She's not in her cell." His guards stood in silence. Zern turned to the camera screens. "Search the lower levels. Tear them apart if you have to. I want her found." "But the council," one guard started. Zern snapped. "The council will listen to me. I'm still in charge here." He didn't want the truth to spread. He didn't want people talking about kindness, about hope, about something stronger than fear. He wanted control. But control was slipping through his fingers. Back in the hidden room, Mila connected the last wire to the signal device. A small light blinked green. "We're ready," she said. Rayan sat beside Keela, watching her carefully. "This signal, it's from your world, right?" Keela nodded slowly. "Yes, it is how we call for home." Mila pressed the button. The device let out a soft hum, and a tiny blue light blinked. "We'll send it every hour," Mila said. "Someone out there might hear it." Keela placed her hand on the device. "They will come." Rayan smiled. "Then we wait together." But waiting was not easy. The guards searched deeper each day. One worker was caught near the wrong hallway and questioned for hours. Another was sent away, his tools taken, his name removed from the records. Fear began to return. Some whispered, "It's too dangerous. Maybe we should stop helping." But then one night Keela's song reached the sleeping quarters. It was softer than usual, like a lullaby. A tired worker wiped tears from his eyes. "I don't know her," he said, "but she sings like she still believes in something." The others listened and stayed. Ryan and Keela spent most of their time together. They talked in soft voices, using both human words and Valari signs. He taught her how to read small words. She taught him how to listen with more than ears. "You feel with heart," she said once, placing her hand over his chest. Ryan nodded. "That's how I found you." Keela looked down. "You took my pain." Ryan shook his head. "No, I shared it." She touched his hand. "That is why I healed." One night, Mila rushed into the room. "They're coming," she said. "Zern's guards, many of them." Rayan stood quickly. "How long?" "Minutes." Mila gave him a small bag. "The side tunnel is clear for now. Take her." Keela stood. Her glow was steady. Her eyes calm. "Let us go," she said softly. Ryan held her hand, and they moved through the tunnel, silent as shadows. Behind them, Mila stayed to block the path. They reached the old lift shaft. Ryan opened the panel and pulled the lever. The lift moved slowly, the gears groaning. Keela looked up at the dark ceiling above them. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere they won't find us," Ryan answered. When the lift stopped, they stepped out into an old cargo bay. No lights, no guards. Just dust, tools, and empty crates. But in the corner, something blinked. A message light. Ryan ran to it and pressed the button. A soft voice came through. "We received your signal. Valari's ship approaching." "Hold position," Keela gasped. "They heard," Ryan smiled wide. "You're going home." But before they could celebrate, the cargo bay door slammed shut. Zern stood at the entrance. "You're not going anywhere." Rayan stepped in front of Keela. "We're not afraid of you." Zern walked slowly toward them. "You broke rules. You stole property." "She's not property," Rayan said sharply. "She's a person." Zern raised a small device. "Step aside, or I'll use this." Keela stepped forward. "No." Her voice was calm, but strong. Zern laughed. "What will you do?" She closed her eyes and began to sing. The sound echoed through the metal walls, soft, clear, and full of light. Zern flinched. Ryan stepped forward and placed his hand in hers. The bond lit again. Zern shouted, "Stop!" But his voice was drowned by the song. It wasn't just a song of sadness. It was a song of truth. And far above, in the stars, A ship changed its course heading for Threx's hold. Keela and Ryan stood side by side, two lights in the dark. One sang, one protected. Together they waited, because help was coming. And this time they would not be silent. End of part 6. Let me know when you're ready for part 7, final, the powerful. Conclusion, of course. Here is the final part, part 7, of your HFY Sci-Fi story. They tormented the alien girl for fun, until one human took her pain instead. About 900 words written in third person, in simple, clean English, powerful, emotional, and satisfying ending. The metal door shook under the force of the guards outside. Inside the hidden room, the lights blinked as the control screen glowed with a signal from deep space. "The Valari ship is near," Mila whispered. "They're almost here." Ryan stood in front of Keela, his hand still holding hers. He could feel her energy again, soft but strong. She didn't look afraid. She looked ready. Outside the room, Zern gave the order. "Break it open." The guards raised their tools. One strike, two dot, then dash, boom dot. The entire station shook with a deep hum. Lights flickered. Panels buzzed. Everyone stopped. What was that? A guard asked. Zern turned to the nearest screen. A large silver ship now hovered outside the station. It was beautiful, glowing with soft light. Smooth wings stretched across the stars. The sign of the Valari people was clear on its side. They had come. The council members in the high tower stared at the ship in silence. One spoke at last. "We received a direct message. They are requesting the release of one of their kind." Another added, "They say a human bonded with her. They call him a protector." A third leaned back. "What do we do?" They all looked at each other. The answer was clear. The world was watching now. They could no longer hide. Down in the tunnel, Zern clenched his jaw. "We're too close. Take her before they arrive." But as the door opened at last, something unexpected happened. Workers stood in the way, the same people Zern once ignored. Men and women in simple clothes. Old workers, young workers, engineers, even bots. They had no weapons, but they stood together. One voice rose, "You won't hurt her." Another added, "We've seen what you did. No more." Zern stepped back, unsure for the first time. Then Ryan stepped out from the room, Keela beside him. She glowed brighter than ever. Silver light surrounded her like a soft shield. She walked calmly, not afraid. The crowd made way for her. She walked toward Zern. He tried to speak, but no words came. Her eyes held him still. "I forgive you," she said quietly. "But I do not forget." He turned and ran. Ryan and Keela reached the upper deck where the Valari shuttle had landed. The air was warm and clear. A group of Valari stepped out, dressed in long robes that shimmered with light. The leader, a tall elder with eyes like Keela's, stepped forward. "You are safe now," he said in a calm voice. Keela bowed her head. "Thank you for coming." The elder looked at Ryan. "And you, human, you formed a pain share. That is rare, even among our kind." Ryan didn't speak at first. Then he said, "She didn't deserve pain. No one does." The elder smiled gently. "Your kindness will not be forgotten." He turned to Keela. "We will take you home, to your forest, to your people." Keela looked at Ryan. He looked at her. They didn't need words. The bond between them said everything. Later, at the edge of the launch bay, Keela stood with Ryan one last time. "I will miss your drawings," she said softly. "I'll miss your singing," Ryan replied with a smile. She reached out and placed her hand over his heart. "You took my pain," she said, "but gave me something greater." He touched her hand. "You gave me purpose." Then she did something unexpected. She took off a small silver crystal from around her neck and placed it in his hand. "This is part of my light," she said. "As long as it shines, I will remember you." Ryan felt his throat tighten. I'll keep it safe." She stepped back slowly, and then, with one final smile, she walked onto the shuttle. The doors closed. The ship rose into the air, silent and smooth, and slipped into the stars. Back in the station, everything felt different. The council could no longer ignore the truth. The workers were heard. The lower decks were cleaned. The cell that once held Keela was turned into a garden with plants growing under soft lights. Mila kept working on machines, but now with younger workers learning beside her. And Ryan? He stayed. He walked the station halls, not as a worker, but as someone respected. People greeted him, asked for advice, and shared stories. Some even asked him to draw again. Each night, he held the silver crystal close, and each night, he looked out the window into the stars. Somewhere out there, Keela was home again, free, safe, and still connected to him. The bond didn't end with distance, it stayed, because real kindness, once given, never fades.